Dele Farotimi has remained one of the most outspoken commentators on Nigeria's security challenges, and his recent message has sparked major conversation nationwide. Kindly watch to the end.
What I am explaining to you is that whilst you might be ensconced in a situation similar to mine, where I am capable of speaking Dogon Turenchi in air-conditioned spaces, there are Nigerians burying their loved ones today because the Nigerian state has failed in its most basic duty of protecting them. You can call it any name you care to call it. The persons being killed in Katsina, you can't call that genocide. Those are fellow Fulanis and Muslims too. But right now, today, as we are speaking, somebody else, another branch of the madness that has been licensed and tolerated by the Nigerian state, is murdering somebody because they are Christians and because they are non-Muslims, because they own their land that these other persons are coveting. They are killing those persons and taking over their land, and the Nigerian state is stood by. Complicit. Complicit. That is what I call it, complicit. Entire communities, villages, despoiled and resettled, and the Nigerian state stands by. That is the one that is genocide. It exists side by side with the terrorism of the one that you call bandits. It exists side by side with the terrorism of the one that is the mineral bandits, those ones who will chase people off their land because some persons who have legal mining licenses require the services of bandits to access mineral rights that have been given in spite of the existing historical rights of the owners of the land. This is the reality. So if I'm talking about save our soul, it is because the persons who should be saving the Nigerian have become complicit in the ruination of the Nigerian. Our government is complicit in the evil that has overtaken this land. So I am saying save our soul, and this is to anyone who still cares about humanity. Don't wait until you are seeing scenes from our cities of slaughter, because it is coming. That is the reality. All that is standing between us and wholesale slaughter is the illusion of a state that has already failed or is rapidly failing. How can you say it's not a failed state, where the state is no longer able to project power and it does not have a monopoly of force? This is the same country where in the South, Tanteta is required to guard our waterways, a country that has a navy. What do you call that? What do you call that? You talk to me about private military contractors. This is the same country where Sari Dokubo openly tells all of us that he operates as a non-state actor under the license of the state to carry out missions that is not even accountable to law. The rules of engagement is unknown to anybody. The terms of engagement completely unknown to anybody. Opaque in the extreme. And that is why in the South, you have unknown gunmen, unknown men, you have this one, you have that one, madness everywhere. And he will tell you how many states he has operated in. Why won't he boast about it in a country overtaken by impunity? My friend, too, Philip, on Facebook was quipping about how maybe MC Oluomo should have made the ambassadorial list. How could he make the list when they need him for the 2027 election and all the other strong arm things that has to be done in the country? That is the extent of the country. It has lost its monopoly of force. Everywhere you turn in Nigeria, in the southwest is Agberu. In the southeast is largely, partly Agberu, largely separatist agitation, non-state actors, sometimes licensed by the state. And that is before you begin to factor in the armed Fulani terrorists. The same thing in the south. The south, you have the armed Fulani terrorists. Yesterday in Enugu, people were kidnapped. In Enugu, persons known to me were kidnapped. As I've been speaking with you online, I have had calls made to me from the phone number of a friend who's been kidnapped. That is the extent of the putrefaction of this state. You might have noticed my distraction a few minutes ago when I was starting this. It was because I was receiving calls from the number of a friend who had been kidnapped by Fulani terrorists in Ogun State. So let's be clear about something. This is not something that is happening to them. It's beginning to happen to us. It's coming home. It is coming home. You have to align this again with the erosion of legitimate authority. Look, ambassadorial list came out. And what did you see? Yahoo Mahmood, the one who declared election in the middle of the night and told all of you, go to court. They've named him an ambassador just a little over 2 years after he supervised a fraudulent election. Look, justice must not only be done, it must be seen to have been done. This is a deliberate undermining of the electoral process. It should not be. It should not and could not be that we normalize evil such as this one, where persons who have occupied position of trust that they deliberately, wantonly breached to the knowledge and sight of everybody, and then they are rewarded politically, and it is okay. And you say that is not a failing state. How do you build institutions that endure when such nepotism, such brazen act of corruption are rewarded by the persons who benefited from this evil? And you are not talking about the faith. Okay, so how do you have faith in that electoral process? So I believe Oshipiton, or whatever the name of the new INEC chairman is, just like it used to be that when you become the NBA chairman, you automatically made it to become the Attorney General. So now once you become INEC chairman, there is an ambassadorial position waiting afterwards. Is this what we are saying to ourselves? And we think it's not time to shout to those who are still capable of hearing that there is nothing right about this. There is nothing right about this. It does not make sense. It doesn't make sense. How do you talk about a country when it doesn't even take itself serious enough to have ambassadors in foreign countries 2 years after a man had smuggled himself to power? You would imagine that a man with the master plan who grabbed it, snatched it, should have governance ready to run by day one, 2 years after. And this is the best that this system has done. Look all around us. We have a youth bulge. We don't even know how many we are. We lie to ourselves and run with all kinds of estimates, from 180 million to 200 million to 230 million to 220 million. Nobody really knows how many we are. But this is deliberately so that all the illegal immigrants who have overtaken our country, you already have them padded in. You don't know how many you are, but one thing that is clear is that there is a huge youth bulge. The unfortunate thing is that the bulk of this is untrained. Where it is trained, it is miseducated. Where it is not, there is a whole heap of issues staring this in the face. This country is failing, is on its way to failure. You have huge population displacement all over the place. I spoke about the one in Plateau State that is properly documented. 64 villages despoiled and resettled. And there are still governments in this country. A local government chairman is collecting money in relation to those places that have been despoiled and resettled. How? You have groups of internally displaced persons camps. Nobody is looking at them, but you are busy resettling, rehabilitating terrorists, and the victims are left ignored. How do you expect to have peace so that a country might endure or even survive? You have unresolved group grievances. The Igbo have genuine grievances against Nigeria. So do the Ijos. So do the Yoruba. So do everybody in Nigeria. Almost everyone as one grievance or the other, legitimate ones against the Nigerian state, and we dare not ask questions. If we speak, we are intimidated, in some cases, killed, just for speaking. Nothing more, just for speaking. Killed, imprisoned, victimized, just for speaking, not for anything more. Somebody was said to have incited terror. Okay. Life imprisonment. Somebody was a field commander, 20 years in jail. Make it make sense. A man kills a terrorist who was trying to kill him on his own farm. You convict him for murder. Make it make sense. How is that? So, you see, we are getting to a point where we must understand that multiple red lines have been crossed by the Nigerian state. We have a situation today where Nigerians no longer emigrate. It was Shewa Nicola Kokuti who first coined the word, and it's quite succinct. They are escaping now. Let me use myself to illustrate this point. I have never desired to see my children live outside Nigeria. Everything I do, initially, was about making sure that this country is preserved for our children so that they do not become indentured slaves in other men's land. So, whilst when it was convenient to have packed my bags and baggages and joined the diaspora, it never crossed my mind. I could never see myself living in the diaspora. And I spent eons convincing my children that they want nothing to do with a life in exile. But as the university system collapsed, like most other persons in my generation, we spent money, great sums, educating our children abroad. Sometimes some of us sold our substances, properties acquired over time, savings. We sent them abroad to go to school. And then there's a phenomenon that my generation is now having to deal with. Those young men and women that we spent our substances and our youth training abroad, they don't want to come to Nigeria. They are voting with their feet. They can see the ruination of Nigeria, and they have decided that they will help us in shouting, "Save your souls," from the comfort of exile. Everything we rejected and repudiated is being thrown right back in our faces because we failed to build this country. My own son will tell me he doesn't want to come back to Nigeria. This is a boy I raised understanding that this is home. But can I complain? Have we built a country they can be proud of? You want them to come home for dirty December? They will come. They will come home for dirty December, always waiting for the first opportunity to japa. Some of them wouldn't even come to Lekki or VI. They would rather stay in Ikeja so that they are close to the airport in case everything goes belly up. That is the country we have built, and you don't reckon we should be shouting, "Save our souls." Let me be very clear so that you get it and get it quickly. When you have this much human flight and brain drain, it is contextual evidence of the failure of the state. They've recognized, see, this one that me I'm telling you with Dogon Trenchi that the ship is sinking. Those kids, they understood it early. They can see it, that this country is not, I wrote a piece some years ago after a visit to the UK. It struck me in the face. I said, Nigeria is not a jungle. I wrote the first one, I wrote the second one. Nigeria is not a jungle one, Nigeria is not a jungle two. That was when I realized that if it was a jungle, it would have some order. They can see the disorder, the chaos with which we live, the organized chaos, the madness that we have acculturated. These kids can see it because they didn't grow up with the madness. They couldn't have any excuses for it. We ensconce them. Now they come around. They call it holiday. It's almost like going on holiday in a war zone, like a safari. That is what Nigeria has become to the diaspora. They come around, barely tolerate us for 2-3 weeks, and then the japa. Do you know the meaning of japa? That is when you are running with your hand, eating your hand pit. That means you are flapping your armpit as you're running. You're running with alarm. That is how they are living Nigeria, running with alarm, because they see no hope. And this is why our case has gone beyond the let's warn ourselves. We should be shouting, save our souls. But of course, you probably not hear me. You're too busy dancing your Azonto. Burna Boy is this, Davido is that, this one Yash is like that, that one do Yash, that one do BF. Don't worry, a generation will come. It might very well be that this is all they would have to navigate their way back to sanity.
Dele Farotimi has been vocal about the rise of insecurity across the country, especially the increasing incidents linked to banditry. According to him, this is not a crisis that will disappear on its own, and an urgent action is needed to protect communities. In his latest commentary, Farotimi expressed concern about how criminal groups continue to operate despite national effort to address the situation. He questioned why these groups appear to function with confidence, why some responses seem inactive, and why the issue has persisted for so long. He emphasized that Nigeria deserves clarity, strong intervention, and visible progress towards safety and stability. Farotimi also noted that every delay in tackling insecurity has real consequences for families, communities, and the nation at large. He believes that national discussions and policy decisions must prioritize the safety of the people above all else. To everyone watching, whether you're in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, or any part of Nigeria, and even those in the diaspora, this is a collective concern. Insecurity affects livelihoods, mobility, education, businesses, and overall national progress. Farotimi's message is a call for unity, civic responsibility, and stronger engagement. He encourages citizens to stay informed and ask questions peacefully through appropriate channels to support initiatives that help affected communities. He also urged Nigerians to participate in constructive conversations and continue to advocate for long-term solutions that strengthen national security. This growing discussion reflects the concerns of many Nigerians who want a safer, more stable country. What are your thoughts on Dele Farotimi's call for stronger action on insecurity? Do you believe national efforts need to be intensified? Share your thoughts in the comment below. Please like this video, share, and subscribe to Nigerian News TV. Turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. Keep watching Nigerian News TV.